Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and today I'm going to be doing the 2 Autistic Booktuber tags. The first tag was created by Anya and I will be linking her below. I will be linking both of the creators below. The second one was created by the real life Kaz Brecker, who got permission from Anya to also have an original tag of the same name because she had been working on it for several months and they both came out with them in Disability Awareness Month / Autistic Acceptance Month of the same year. So Anya's starts, what is an underrated book with autism representation? And I picked A Bird Will Soar because I haven't heard about this on like Booktube or Bookstagram, etc. I only found this through searching my library's disability categories, and this one is possibly own voices. It's kind of implied by the creator that she is at least neurodivergent, possibly autistic, and for certain has an autistic son, which a lot of times I don't like or recommend books by autistic parents because a lot of times they are very full of ableism and treat their child either as a trauma corn or an inspiration corn. But in this case, I believe that the author is autistic, and that is why she was able to portray the inside of an autistic child's mind so well. While also being more up to date in how autism is treated at school, because she's very involved in her son's schooling. Number 2, which book with autism representation do you resonate with the most? And I think this has to be, I can't remember what it's called, but Helen Huang's third book. I'll put up the cover. But this is a lot about the autistic character going through burnout, particularly creatively, because she finally got a bit of a wider audience when a video of her playing her violin kind of went viral, and after that she's been stymied because she thinks it has to be perfect and she's terrified of people's judgment, and so now she can barely play at all. The whole book goes a lot into various stages of burnout and getting help for it, and the romance is kind of a side thing, and I identified with a lot of that. I started burnout back when I was about 19, and I'm still in it at 24, and I've progressed through various parts of it, so a lot of that resonated with me. Number 3, which book with autism representation would you recommend to your younger self? And I picked Act Your Age, Eve Brown, because this is partially about the character discovering that she's autistic. We have a lot of similarities, so I think it might have helped me figure out that I was autistic when I was younger, or at least look in that direction. And my younger self didn't like sex scenes, and back when I was a kid I felt even kind of weird about skipping them, so I just avoided books like that entirely. But if I could have dealt with that part of it and just skipped those parts, I think that that book would have really helped me a lot. Number 4, what's your favorite book with autism representation starring a person of color? And for that I decided to pick Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I love the entire Brown Sisters trilogy, though the first and last are my favorites. And I also love Talia Hibbert's earlier work that has autism representation, such as A Girl Like That, I think it's called. But I think Chloe Brown is my favorite because the chronic pain is really something that I identify with as well, and I just absolutely adore the dialogue between her and her love interest, and also that one has a cat in it, so that adds points always. And number 5, what are your most anticipated new releases with autism rep? And for that I picked Like a Charm, which is by the same author as A Kind of Spark and Show Me Who You Are. And it's out in the UK, but it's not out in America. And I've got the UK editions of the other two, and it's gonna be quite a while before it's published in the US because A Kind of Spark has just barely been published here, so I might end up getting that edition, getting the UK edition of that as well when I'm feeling self-indulgent. So the first one of this author's works was a contemporary. The second one was a sci-fi in the fairly near future that had like holograms and stuff. And this third one's gonna be a fantasy. So I'm super excited because I love her writing. They're all middle grade and I love middle grade, but fantasy is of course my favorite genre. Okay, now on to Real Life Kaz Brecker's version of the tag. The first preliminary question is if you feel like talking about how you got diagnosed or how long you were undiagnosed, kind of your autism journey so far. And so I didn't know I was autistic till I was about 21. Then I started, well, I continued. I've been searching since I was a teenager for an explanation for my back pain and for my social anxiety, and then for all my various other health problems. Like I have gastric reflux and also irritable bowels. I'm really sensitive to heat and I'm really photosensitive, and I have ridiculously bad allergies. Even though my mom and grandma both had allergies that they obviously passed down to me, mine are worse than any of theirs. And like, so I just have this sort of slew of health problems that seem unrelated, but like, why do I have so many? And then on top of that, having the mental problems of having first social anxiety and then depression. I've been looking since I was a teenager to try to figure out, are these all related somehow? Like, why did I randomly have such bad luck? Some trauma happened at 19 that involved me leaving higher education. And then I was in burnout, which seemed like just regular depression, but now looking back, it's like, yep, that was burnout, because I was also way less able to do things than I was before that happened. So the trauma kind of catalyzed the burnout that had been building up towards for a long time. And then a couple of years later, I was researching some more and saw a video about how social anxiety, which was something I had actually been diagnosed with, was related to autism in women. And from there, I got to a list of common autistic traits that are more common in women, less in men, because of how we're socialized, to like hide, to mask in a different way than men are. And I hit a ton of those on the list, and then learned more and more and gradually self-diagnosed myself. I did go to a psychiatrist to try to get a diagnosis at one point, and he was like, well, there aren't any other medications that will help with that we aren't already taking for your depression, so I don't see any reason to diagnose you. And that was the conversation. And I hate arguing with medical professionals, so I left it there, and I don't really, and before that I had already been traumatized by various therapists not believing me, because in order to get access to this psychologist, we had to go to therapists first, psychiatrists that is, and they both gaslit me, and so I was just about done with the medical trauma at that point, so I've left it at self-diagnosed. And then later on I discovered there are perks to being self-diagnosed, like you're less likely to have your children taken away from you if you have kids. You're less likely to be denied getting an organ donation, and all sorts of other medical ableism you can avoid if you mask well and there isn't an autism diagnosis on your record. Also, you have less problems with immigration, because lots of countries that have good health care won't let in disabled people. That was longer than I meant it to be. So the first regular question is, who is your favorite autistic author? And for me, that's Talia Hibbert, partially because of sheer quantity, whereas other authors like Helen Huang, I've only read 3 of her books, and I don't think she has much of a backlog. But Talia Hibbert has a huge backlog, and she has done Autism Rep before this most recent series. Oh, speaking of, be aware that Talia Hibbert's first 2 books in her Brown Sisters trilogy don't have on-page autism diagnosis. They are retroactively self-diagnosed, kind of, in the 3rd book. So, like, it's canonical that they have it, but isn't mentioned in the text of those books. Whereas Eve Brown, it's in the text, and in A Girl Like Her, it's in the text. But yeah, I absolutely also adore Talia Hibbert's dialogue and the deep feelings I feel when I read her work. 3 is what is your favorite book in general with autism rep, and that's a really hard one, and I'm kind of like mixing it, mixy-matching it with which book do you most relate to, because this is kind of both of these books for both of these questions. So that's The Kiss Quotient and Get a Act Your Age, Eve Brown. Yes, I'm referencing these series a lot, but like different books within those series for specific things, because I identify a lot with the touch aversion in Kiss Quotient and also the painful social anxiety. Whereas in Eve Brown, I identify more with the discovery of it and learning that you have to have a certain type of job that matches your autistic personality and your autistic traits, and that a lot of autistic people have very specific ways they need to do things, and if they have a boss who won't let them do things that way, they're not going to thrive in that workplace. So I identified a lot with that from Eve Brown, and I just enjoy those on a romance level and on a fun dialogue, and I have a fun time reading them level. So kind of each of those goes with each of those questions. Number 4, who is your favorite autistic headcanon? And I picked the girl from Something to Say, which I said back when I read this that I headcanoned her as autistic because she has a lot of the traits, and she makes friends with a also very obvious neurodivergent of some kind kid who probably specifically has ADHD. And a lot of autistic people will pair up with ADHDers because sometimes we bring out not good in each other and don't get along, but sometimes we match up really well, and the ADHDer will kind of help the autistic person to be less of a stick in the mud, and the autistic person will kind of help stabilize the ADHDer. And that's kind of the vibe that I got from that book, and yeah, it was really special read. I really enjoyed that. Number 5, do you have any book-related comfort items? Most of my fandom type stuff is from movies, often ones that were adapted from books, but the actual merch type stuff is from the movie version, like Lord of the Rings stuff is a lot like based on silhouettes and stuff from the movies. And I was first familiarized with the quotes that I like from the movies, but I like, for example, Lord of the Rings a lot more now that I've read the books. So one example is I have earrings that have the Tree of Gondor on them. I really like those. And I really like books themselves as comfort items. I'm somebody who will hug a book that I'm enjoying reading. And I really enjoy just looking at my pretty books. I also really like markers, especially fandom type markers. I also like to decorate my shelves with stuffed animals, such as these guys. And this one is on my black bookshelf. It's so great. Oh, and I have a fair amount of Beauty and the Beast related jewelry because I love all the versions of that story, and I've read quite a few. There might be actually enough now for me to do another new video that's just about those. Number 6 is one of your special interest reading, which it probably is if you're a booktuber who's autistic. But yeah, for me it is. It's kind of a subset of my big special interest, my big vague special interests that are language and communication via language and storytelling. So I like both the stories themselves and how they are told via language. So like specifically how people express things is really cool to me, and like tropes and how tropes are used is an interesting study to me, as well as etymology of specific words that are used, and redone twists on fairy tales are really interesting to me because they combine modern storytelling with hundreds of years ago storytelling. So I find all that super fascinating. Number 7, what was the first autistic character you encountered in a book? And I don't think I read any books with autistic characters for school or when I was little. I think the first time I actually read about an on-page diagnosed autistic person in a book was Queens of Geek. Looking at the timeline on my Goodreads page, that seems to be one of the first ones, and I actually read it for the asexual representation that I'm pretty sure is in there. And the autistic rec was kind of secondary. Number 8, who are your favorite autistic booktubers? And I don't know very many. I got to know several more through this tag, and also someone did my Autism in Books tag, so I've found several more since like a couple of months ago when I went looking up these tags. So I will link as many as I found down below. There's only like 5 more. The first ones that I encountered were Anna G and Seiji. Seiji is always linked below because she made a compendium of works by Black authors that I find really useful, so that's down there. But yeah, I also really love, she's super interested in language as well. I think she's from the Netherlands, and so she speaks that language and also English, and she's learning Japanese. Just her whole personality and her interests were very much stuff that I liked, and yeah, really love her channel. And Anna G, I just kind of vibed with for a long time. She's into fantasy, similarly to me, and she plays board games a lot and D&D, various different types of board games, and now she's actually created her own, I believe. So so it was a while before I actually discovered that they are autistic, that they said so on their channel, and that made me really happy because I understood why I vibed with them so well. And then more recently I discovered the real Kaz Brecker and Anya, of course. But there are a few more that I've also found, so I will link them down below as well. Number 9, what book with autistic rep are you looking forward to reading? And in addition to the one I said earlier, I also am looking forward to Get a Grip, Vivi Cohen, because I think Anya said that she liked this one a lot, and it is a middle grade, and I've had it for a while. And then number 10, what recommendations do you have? And so ones that I haven't brought up yet in this video are some that I'm going to wrap up this month because they're new to me. So one of those is The Reason I Jump, which is written by a boy in Japan when he was 13. He's older now and is continuing to write more autistic. That one was nonfiction. I'm not sure if his new ones are fiction or not. The Reason I Jump is a Q&A style thing, so it's like a lot of autistic parents of autistic kids and teachers of autistic kids asking why he does certain things, like jumping. And a lot of it, he doesn't have like the technical terminology before. Like, he talks about how it feels to jump and how it feels to like clap his hands and spin around, but he doesn't like call it stimming. So I think this was back when we didn't, as an autistic community, have as many good words to describe our experiences with. And there were times when I felt like he should have said, I do this because of this, or I feel this way, rather than we, because he kind of talks for other nonverbal and verbal autistic people. A good reason to read it is that he is non-speaking. He uses AAC, specifically letterboard. And a lot of people will try to say that non-speaking autistic people can't communicate, but they can if they are provided with the means to do so, a lot of them. Even though non-speaking people are able to write books and make social media posts, they tend to not get as much attention as speaking autistic people. Of course, a lot of people who are in between, who are only non-speaking or nonverbal some of the time. The more difficult it is for an autistic person to blend in, the less they are able to mask, the more their voice is likely to be obscured, and the more likely they are to be spoken over by neurotypical society. So yeah, those are the tags. Thank you so much for watching. Anyone who's an autistic booktuber, I tag you if you haven't done this yet. And for anyone who is not autistic but would like to do an autism related book tag, perhaps for Disability Month, I will link mine below. It's an informational sort of thing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!